Hi, this is Ryan Covington with Covington's Nursery. Before you can plant any veggies, you're going to need a garden. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about setting up your first garden and getting the soil prepped perfectly for North Texas. And if you're worried about asking stupid questions, don't be, because I'm going to ask them for us. I've never had a garden before either, so come on, let's grow together. Burton.
Ryan.
Hello. So let's say that today I have decided that I'm going to create a small to medium-sized vegetable garden in my yard. Well, I'm not going to lie. The first thing I'm going to start thinking about is how can this sucker be beautiful? I'm going to want a magical storybook garden with a gate and a fence. So that's what I'm thinking about. What should I actually be thinking about?
Sunshine. You need to have half a day or greater of sunshine to grow a good vegetable garden, preferably 6 hours plus.
Okay, I have mostly shade in my yard, so that's going to drastically limit my garden if I have to find a very sunny spot to put it in.
Yes, you should.
Okay, so let's say I've found the one sunny spot in my yard to build my garden. The next thing I'm trying to decide is, do I want a raised bed or do I want to plant the vegetables in the ground? Help me figure that out.
Okay, well, either is acceptable, but here in town, in an urban setting, a raised garden is usually simpler and easier for most folks. Our soil is extremely heavy and hard to till, and you have to amend it, which is fine, especially if I'm doing a larger garden.
I see, you're saying simpler because we're going to control every single element of the soil that goes into our raised bed rather than dealing with something existing.
Yes, indeed, and it'll be much easier to blend in this raised setting because you can basically spoon it together.
Now, is there a reason why someone might choose to plant the vegetables in the ground rather than a raised?
Well, there's two. Usually one, size. If you want to have a truly large garden, sometimes it can be impractical to bring in that much soil. And secondly, if our soil does have some benefits. It is heavy, but once you do get it worked up, the clay will help retain moisture. So
you're talking about our natural Texas soil.
Our North Texas soil. So it won't dry out quite as quickly between watering once you do finally get it broken together and properly watered. So there are some benefits, but for most of us in town, it's simpler to do a raised garden.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards raised. Okay, so let's say I'm deciding to go with a raised bed, and let's pretend like this is empty. What am I going to fill it with? Is there a recipe that you give people, maybe?
Yes, actually, for smaller raised forms, or even mid-sized raised beds like this, we like to recommend a half and half mixture of our jemasco potting soil, which we use this because it is heavier and has a little better water retention.
I know it's also cheaper, but...
It is, but that's not the main reason, though it is desirable for this. I don't want to use it entirely, though. I want to have some higher quality drainage soil in there as well. So what I'll do is I'll mix it with our Covington potting soil, roughly half and half, and it gives us a really good blend that's good for growing vegetables without everything drying out the moment you look at it.
That's also easy to remember. Half of this, half of this.
It is. You can just simply spoon it together.
So Burton, seeing this hose here reminded me of something I might not want to know the answer to, but when I'm out photographing gardens, I rarely see a sprinkler system or any irrigation. How are these gardens getting watered, Burton?
Well, the majority of them are being watered by hand.
I thought.
Now, I recommend a watering wand. It will help you a lot. It gives you some reach. It makes things simpler, makes the water softer.
Doesn't help with time.
Does not help with time. Sprinkler systems they can help you, but you shouldn't rely upon them entirely. Because every sprinkler system setup I've seen with soaker hoses or drips or the like, it's rare to have it take care of everything perfectly. They can cut you down some time, they can save you some labor, but you're still going to need to go out there occasionally and do some hand watering and check the plants that need water.
Just like I thought, a garden's going to be a time commitment.
It is. It doesn't have to be a terrible one, but you do have to spend some time with it.
So, Burton, now my mind has turned towards critters, insects, and diseases. You know, when I'm picturing my magical, beautiful garden, does it have a net over it? Does it have pre-insecticide in the soil? Are there bug sprayers everywhere? How am I controlling all of these undesirable things?
Okay, at home, we rarely recommend any of that. Now, there are specific crops that we may treat from time to time preventatively that have a easily controlled issue that is common, but for the most part, healthy plants that are well fed and well watered rarely have terrible insect issues.
That's good to know. How about my net?
The net can work for some insects, but it's kind of impractical because it's hard to get in there and weed and water.
I agree. Also, it's not very pretty.
And it's not very
Yeah.
pretty. It's not totally impractical, but it is difficult to work with, and so we rarely recommend them.
Okay, so we're going to solve the problems as they arise.
Yeah.
So Burton, lastly, I want to talk about fertilizer and mulch, because I'm realizing that all of my knowledge about both of these two things is in the realm of ornamental landscaping, and I'm kind of assuming that maybe things are going to be different when we're talking about vegetables.
They are different. They need different nutrition to do their best. Generally speaking, in a raised garden around here, you're going to need more phosphate than we use in the soil around here because that's important for rooting, fruiting, and blooming.
Okay.
All of which you need to make good vegetables. Also, you're going to have to fertilize more aggressively. We have this in a raised garden, which means we're going to be watering it a little more often, and it's going to rinse the fertilizer out a little bit faster.
So it's different fertilizer and more of it.
And more of it. Now, the mulch still helps. Now, I usually only mulch about an inch deep in the vegetable garden.
I didn't even know if we were mulching at all, but we are still applying mulch.
Yes, we are, because that will still help you, smother out weeds and retain moisture and do all the things that mulch does.
And it's going to be prettier.
And it will be prettier. But it's important from a functionality standpoint. So yes, we are going to fertilize. We're going to fertilize more aggressively. And when we start a raised garden, I do like this fertilizer right here. This is a good organic fertilizer from Happy Frog.
Happy Frog.
I like it specifically because it has beneficial mycorrhizal fungi in it to inoculate the soil with the living things that we want in a healthy soil that won't be there when we're starting with fresh soil out of a bag. These are the materials that you'd usually have the living organisms that are present in healthy, normal soil. So it'll get it off to a good start.
And I'll definitely remember this colorful package.
It is very colorful.
So Burton, one last thing. I'm kind of a visual learner. I sometimes don't read the back here. Just kind of show me a visual of how much fertilizer you sprinkle down on the top of this.
For this organic fertilizer right here, I'd recommend you put a cup of it per 4 foot by 4 foot square of the vegetable garden, just evenly across the top. Now, I still want you to fertilize with a little bit more in the hole when we plant individual starts. But just to get the whole bed started,
Give me a visual of that, Burton. Give me a visual.
I will.
Okay.
This material right here is an organic fertilizer, so it's very safe. I'm going to pull roughly a cup of it out. We're just going to evenly dust it across the entire top of this vegetable garden until we have a dusting. It looks about like that, and that's going to be roughly
you're done.
Do that across the whole top surface, and then put a good generous pinch in with each individual transplant.
Okay. Okay, and Burton, visually, is this what it should look like? You've just dusted the top of it?
This is a little bit heavy, but that's one of the benefits of organic fertilizer. It's incredibly hard to burn with. I could do it 3 times as hard and not burn anything.
That's good to know. So I don't know what time of year it is you've decided to start your first vegetable garden, but I do know you're going to need a planting and a harvesting schedule, and we have a great one at covingtonnursery.com. You'll find all the information you need to know right there on our website about what to plant and when. Also, speaking of schedules, from here on out, we are going to be talking about specific types of vegetable crops to plant on all of our videos. I understand that each one's a little different. I don't actually know, but we'll find out. Hey, let's grow together. So one of my best friends, this was years ago, I think with her first child, she wanted to teach her little girl the miracle of gardening, like the satisfaction of growing her own food, all of that. The little girl, for whatever reason, was not feeling it. It was probably taking too long. Gardening is not exactly known for its immediate gratification. So the grandfather went to the store and bought all this big, beautiful, fresh produce and buried it all in the ground. And I'll never forget, they sent me pictures, the look on this little girl's face as she unearthed all these big, beautiful peppers and zucchinis and tomatoes, all of which are vegetables that do not grow in the ground. So, what a weird lesson this was for her. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure at one point I saw her pulling like a banana out of the ground. Actually, you know what, Lila? I dedicate this gardening series to you. You must have a lot of questions, so feel free to call or email me. Hope this clears up some mysteries for you.